Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. On Thursday, England went to the polls. Not all of England, but a lot of it. And it was only for the council elections. Now, turnout was quite low, but the analysis is that given a general election, there would be enough swing from the Conservatives to Labour to allow Labour to become the largest party at Westminster and have an attempt at forming the next government. But analysts such as Professor John Curtis suggest that Labour's victory would be at a cost and it wouldn't have an absolute majority. At that point, they would be relying on others, and the SNP would be eager to fill that role. They would be the kingmakers. They would hold the balance of power. And we know what that will cost. The question for Labour is, will they go into power with SNP just to make sure they can run the country as a majority government and then offer the SNP a second Indy ref? I think it would be quite safe to do so, because I do not think that the Indy ref will go the way the SNP want. However, it is still a risk for Labour, because if Scotland does vote to go independent and then all the Scottish MPs leave Westminster, that means that the Conservative Party would then be the biggest party in Westminster and would have to form the next government. It's like turkeys voting for Christmas. So let's have a look at the analysis here and see what's going on and see what is likely to happen and why the SNP are rubbing their hands, licking their lips and looking at the whole situation with much gusto and much relish. Here goes. So we will hold the balance of power at the next election, the SNP claim. Westminster leader Stephen Flynn says party is in a prime position to pull the strings of a minority government after polls predict Keir Starmer is on course for a hung parliament. SNP Stephen Flynn said his party would be in the prime position, and it comes after experts said Labour will not win a majority in the next election. Oh, the irony! In Scotland, we have an SNP minority government with the Greens acting as the tail, and it's wagging the dog. All the mad policies that are causing the destruction of the SNP caused by the party they've gone into power with, the minority party in power. And now the SNP want to be the tail that wags the Labour dog. Labour would look at them and think, are you crazy? Why would we take this on? Why would we bow and scrape and kowtow to a minority party just to maintain power when that party wants to destroy what we want to control? It is madness. And of course, all they have to look at is the perilous situation the SNP have found them in with the policies of their lesser partner, and they must forswear anything that would get them into that position. So I think it would be tempting, and you can guarantee Keir Starmer will certainly give it serious thought, but they would be mad to do it. Imagine Labour tying themselves up, trying to make the Gender Reform Act the national policy of Britain. It would go against existing laws. There would be absolute mayhem and chaos if they pushed that, for example. But we all know why the SNP want to do it. One policy and one policy only, the second referendum, which they're not likely to win. But just in case they did, it would destroy Labour. Getting into the article, the SNP could hold the balance of power at the next election, the party's Westminster leader claimed yesterday. Could, possibly won't. It came after experts predicted that Labour will not win an overall majority in a national vote based on its performance in this week's local elections. Well, to be fair, this week's local elections were good for Labour. The Tories have lost over 1,000 seats. It was an absolute routing. They will be sitting there licking their lips and looking to the one man that has caused this, Rishi Sunak. What you've got to remember, and I've said this before, that people who voted Labour voters who voted Tory at the last election didn't vote Tory. They voted Boris, the man who was elected into power. And then there was a cabal within the Tory party that basically got rid of him, imposed a moron in the form of Liz Truss, but Liz Truss was the one voted for by the Tory members who actually really wanted to vote for Boris Johnson, but the rules were put in place and changed by the 1922 committee to make sure Boris Johnson couldn't stand. He had to go. And so they had to vote for someone, so they voted for Liz Truss. Nobody wanted Rishi. But Liz Truss was an absolute moron, and she failed, and she was out, and Rishi was implemented as into power without any mandate from the members of the party. So not only have the Tories lost the Labour Party supporters who voted and gave their vote for them because of Boris, they've then lost all those people who feel put upon by having Rishi Sunak imposed upon them without mandate, and that has annoyed a lot of people. And it's Rishi Sunak, and then in person, that's caused a lot of this loss. But then it's also Rishi Sunak's policies that have caused a lot of this loss. Real Tory voters are looking at the current Tory party and thinking that's not the Conservatives, that's Labour in a blue frock, and they're just leaving in droves. I think the Tory party may well be finished, and I think after this election, this next general election, probably in the autumn next year, I think the Tory party will be in absolute disarray until they can find someone within their ranks who is actually a Tory, because there seems to be fewer and fewer of them. And until they get that, they're finished. And then we'll have no credible opposition to the Labour behemoth that will undoubtedly try and run roughshod over the country next time. Please understand my politics. I will explain them. I am neither Tory, nor Labour, nor Lib Dem, nor Green, nor SNP. I hate them all. They're all self-serving, grasping bastards. I am slightly right of centre on economic policy. I am slightly left of centre on social policy. I think people are more important than pounds. The Scottish National Party's Stephen Flynn said the results suggested the SNP could be in prime position to pull the strings of a minority government after the next general election. Labour would have a 9-point lead over the Tories if England's local election results were extended to cover the whole of Britain, according to BBC projections. Professor Michael Thrasher, election analyst for Sky News, said applying this week's local voting trends on a national scale indicated Labour would become the largest party at the next general election, but it would fall short of winning an outright majority. This means Sir Keir Starmer would probably have to form a deal with another party, such as the Lib Dems or the SNP, to govern. And despite the Labour leading vowing last year that he would never form a coalition with the SNP, never is a short time in politics. And it can be easily forgotten about, and it will, and if it's desperate for power, he would sign his soul to the devil to take the keys of number 10. Tory peer Gavin Barwell yesterday said Labour had not proved it had the momentum at the ballot box to hand Sir Keir the keys to Downing Street. Lord Barwell, the Chief of Staff to former Prime Minister Theresa May, compared Labour's performance to that of Ed Miliband, who enjoyed success at the local elections during his leadership in the early 2010s, before tanking at the 2015 general election, in which David Cameron's Conservatives won a majority. But that was all down to a bacon sandwich. There was that very famous picture of him eating a bacon sandwich, and he looked like it was just an awful picture. And that was the picture that stuck in people's minds and said, no thank you, we cannot have this man leading the country. No one who looks like that. It came after Sir Keir, emboldened by the victories in places including Plymouth, Stoke-on-Trent and Swindon, hailed an amazing set of results for his party. Amazing, maybe, but not unexpected, to be fair. You're getting to a point where the Tories have done everything they can to make things worse for the working man, and there's a lot more working men than there are Tory 1%ers. So, it's not surprising, I think, that the Tories are suffering now. If they want to do anything, they've got to get Boris back. They've got to turf Rishi out, put Boris back. And even then, I don't think they could form a government. I don't think they could win. But at least make it a far closer run thing. Anyway, he told jubilant activists in Chatham in Kent, make no mistake, we are on course for a Labour majority at the next general election. But only just. I think only just according to the figures. Results from Thursday's local elections showed the Tories losing control of councils across England, but the vote appeared to be split between Labour, the Lib Dems, the Greens and the Independents in many areas, rather than Tory voters defecting straight to Labour. And there were some setbacks, particularly in Slough, where Labour lost 17 seats and control of the authority, which it effectively left bankrupt 2 years ago. People remember these things, you know. And if they won't be the only place Labour leave bankrupt, because they leave everywhere bankrupt. The Tories are now the biggest party in Slough with half of the 42 councillors. I don't know if anyone's been to Slough. It isn't good. Lord Barwell admitted the results were bad for the Tories, but added the general election result is not in the bag yet. No, and it's still a long way off politically. You're talking, a year and a bit, year and a half maybe. That will be time if they pull their finger out and if they can ditch Rishi, ditch Hunt, lower taxes, lower interest rates, give working people more money in their pocket, they may just pull it back. But unless they do that, they're finished. And they're just absolute cowboys. Every single person everyone in Parliament is awful, with one or two exceptions. There are one or two MPs on the side of the Angels, but there's not many. There's Rosie Duffield on Labour. There's Miriam Cates on the Tory side. They're about it. You know, can't think of many more. The rest of them are just awful people when you look at them. Anyway, I shall round off and come up. It's not surprising, of course, that the SNP are so eager to get into bed with Labour after the next election. They would love to have their fingers in a power base in England. Think of the chaos they could cause. They're a party that dislike and loathe England. And they loathe Westminster. They know they have to have a force there. But can you imagine the SNP having any kind of control or having any kind of say in a ministry that controls the whole of Britain? Regardless of what it did for Scotland, I think that they would be deliberately harming, Britain in order to show Scotland how awful the rest of Britain is, to try and boost their own power base. It is a non-starter. I think Keir Starmer is right to say no. You cannot invite your enemy into your government. You cannot invite those who want to come into your house to destroy it. It's madness to do so. But we are talking about the Labour Party here, so who knows? But the SNP, they would be loving the chance to go into government at Westminster to take controls of anything they could get hold of. Just keep pulling levers until things break. And then go and blame Westminster and say, oh, no, you're doing this in Scotland now. Look, blah, blah, blah. We need independence. But that would be the price, would be that independence referendum. And they still wouldn't win. They have got no chance. Why can't they realise this? The SNP, single-minded, obsessed and stupid. And I shall round off there. Thank you very much for watching. If you like what you've seen here on the channel, please hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, leave a like, please share the video. And until next time, stay safe, stay well, don't ever let the SNP get hold of power, and goodbye.